On this week's episode, we're continuing with part 2 of the same topic we covered last week. Why is my marketing strategy failing? Can a full stack marketer help? And on this week, we're going to continue with insights 4, 5, and 6. And most importantly, the bit that we're all waiting for. Where do you find a full stack marketer?
Yep, so if you haven't watched part 1, go back. There's a link somewhere here. On that side? Okay, there's a link right there. Click on that link and watch part 1, because if you haven't watched part 1, you're going to be a little lost.
When you think that something as intangible as design and communications can't really affect your bottom line,
you usually end up with marketing and advertising tools that don't help you inherently mitigate your business risk.
that's what this podcast is about.
A behind-the-scenes look at how we go about doing what we do, mitigating business risk. I'm Jude Lazaro.
And I'm Mark Lazaro. And you are watching our weekly video podcast.
So last week we introduced the concept of a breakthrough opportunity, how you convert that into a tactic, and how that tactic can become a trend. It's extremely important to spot the fact that your tactic has become a trend. And we said trends are bad. This brings me to point number 4. If trends are bad and need to be replaced by tactics, then a delayed trend is even worse.
What is a delayed?
A delayed trend is you coming to the party well after it's over. It's like you landing up at, 3 o'clock in the morning going, where's the party, man? You got the party started at 9. And I can expound on this with a real world example. The number of business leaders that we meet today that think that Facebook is, the place to be, that digital advertising is the place to be, don't realize that the golden era where it was a good tactic passed a long time ago.
Oh, you're going to piss off a lot of digital marketing
I'm going to piss a lot of digital marketing people off, but yes, Facebook started to publicly monetize their platform with advertising in 2012. And that's when they started to shut down all the freebies that came with the growing platform. Now, all of the legendary stories that people latch onto, or the breakthrough tactic stories that they hear going, dude, I made a killing on Facebook, are pre-2012. And there are so many latecomers to this game today who think that Facebook is an open green field. It's not. Facebook has now become a trend that everyone's on. And remember that little thing about cost of business that I spoke about? Today, Facebook is a cost of business. Yeah. It's the cost of doing business. If you want to reach people on Facebook, you've got to spend money.
It's just as expensive as any other old media out there.
Yeah. Now that being said, not everything in your marketing strategy has to be a breakthrough tactic. You look at the entire go-to-market strategies that you have. Most of it will kind of stay pretty much the same. And you're going to find these little tactics and keep tweaking. And they'll pull and tug on the rest of the system.
In fact, if you had a strategy that was filled with tactics, it's a very volatile system.
It is. That's not a good way to make your marketing strategy work. You want to use the right tactics in the right quantum. And you want to avoid the delayed trend. So don't come to the party too late.
So what's the next insight?
If I've now painted a grim picture by telling you that breakthrough tactics are going to get absorbed by this herd of competitors and made into useless trends, I should tell you how to find breakthrough tactics that have a long lifespan.
Which means it's difficult for a copycat to show up.
Exactly. So here's what I've seen. Most companies spend a lot of time building their product or developing their product, and obviously their channel distribution strategy and things of that sort. And they almost kind of head up to that launch point to bring in the right people to sit down and build marketing strategy and customer experience. Now, if this is what your go-to-market strategy looks like before you launch, then let me tell you something. You've just lost a huge opportunity. Because if you change this around a wee bit to look more like this, where you start product development and run marketing strategy and customer experience in parallel, you see that little overlap that goes all the way through the middle? That long overlap space is the best place to find long-lasting breakthrough tactics.
It's the breeding ground.
Yeah, because whenever product pushes on marketing, or whenever marketing pushes against product development, it's in those gaps that you find those breakthrough points where you go, oh man, if we did this, our competition wouldn't be able to follow for a while. Here's an example. In 2012, we started working with a really small real estate company. The guy who founded it had been a part of the industry for about a decade, or a little more than a decade. But this was a startup for all practical purposes. And we got the chance to work in parallel with the product development team, which was actually the architect. And we constantly would go and weigh in and out of saying, wow, that's a great product feature. How can we use it in marketing? And here's a marketing requirement. How can we push against product? But then something else popped out of this relationship. At the time, if you looked at the status quo of the real estate industry, it kept things like price point extremely close to its chest. These were public secrets. The price of all real estate was, even today,
Public domain.
it's public domain. Every one of the competitors knew what the other guy was selling the property at. So we said, hang on a second. If you need to be perceived as a trustworthy, company, especially because you're new, what if we took pricing and made it public domain?
Upfronted it.
What if we upfronted it on your website? So that was the breakthrough opportunity that we had. And we now balanced that equation by going in and figuring that if we were going to pull this off, we had to change the way his legal team worked. We had to change all of their contracts. We had to change the way his finance department looked at collecting money. We needed to change the way the sales team approached it. And more importantly, we had to figure out the technology behind a safe way to make this pricing public so that no one could manipulate it. Yeah. And we did it. And we made this change back in 2013. Here's the immediate benefit it brought to him. It differentiated him like nothing else. It put him on the map. Tons of sales rolled in because people now had a one-on-one experience with a company that did not need to say it was being transparent. It was transparent. Guess what? None of the competitors in this market in 2017, that's what's going to date this episode, have bothered to follow.
Yeah.
So that tactic of his
Had an extremely long life.
has a very strong life.
Just continuing.
Yeah, we can't see it becoming a trend yet.
I remember back then we estimated a 6-month lifespan to this, and we were shocked that nobody had come 6 months later. I remember that.
Now, the only reason that this worked was because we found this tactic and many more like this. The company that I'm talking about is Dasta. We'll put a link down here. There's a link in the show notes. You can go and experience this entire thing. It's actually online. You can use it.
So to just go back to your reference of the equation, what you're doing to enhance the life cycle of a tactic is complicating the right-hand side of the equation.
Yes. The more complex the balanced equation looks,
The more difficult it is to copy.
yes, the more difficult it is to copy.
Cool.
And the way you do that is to make that integrate much deeper with more departments that you don't necessarily classify as having anything to do with marketing.
Yeah.
So this fundamental change in the point of view on how you look at where marketing comes in is going to change where and how many you find, of these long-lasting breakthrough tactics. So I would implore you to not follow the first illustration, but to change the way you look at product development and make it look like this. Make this overlap broad, because there are so many long-lasting breakthrough tactics that you're throwing away purely because you bring in a marketing strategist or you bring in a creative strategist at the fag end. So if you're going to try and implement this version of product development cycle versus the one on top, the biggest pushback that you're going to get is from the promoter of the company or the financier or your CFO or someone who has not understood that marketing is not an indirect cost, it's a direct cost. And when you can make someone understand that, when you decipher how to do this, how to take direct cost and relabel the investment in actually making or finding all of these breakthrough opportunities and converting them into long-lasting tactics, A direct cost is a price that can be completely attributed to the production of specific goods and services. And now that you know that if you overlap marketing with product development, that middle space is where you find long-lasting breakthrough tactics for your marketing strategy, you realize, man, why am I not doing it?
Correct.
Right? So all you have to do is change the semantic. A direct cost is in your bills of material. So walk up to your CFO, walk up to a promoter and say, hey, marketing has to feature on the bills of material. So go back to your bills of material, which affects your price point eventually, and look at it and you'll find that marketing's not in your bills of material. Most people think about marketing later. So the mistake of bringing marketing in later is actually a financial mistake.
Correct.
A core financial mistake because you haven't classified it properly. All of the effort that goes into marketing strategy and finding breakthrough tactics which last for a long time and give you higher ROI are just not appearing in your organization because you're thinking about this differently from a financial standpoint. Soon as you understand that it's a direct cost and you then put it on your bills of material, you'll see your company turn around. You'll find your marketing strategy not failing. You'll find that you have a nice rich list of long-lasting breakthrough tactics and your ROI calculations is going to shoot through the roof.
So given the fact that you understand that marketing needs to be a part of the bills of material, and the fact that marketing has to be a constant development that follows through with the constant development of a product, I'm assuming you need your full stack marketers on board now.
Yes, because you know your full stack marketer is the guy that balances the equation. You need to supplement that inability to balance the equation and start to look for partners to be able to bring them in and plug them in. That's what you need.
Okay, so that begs the question, where do we find these full stack marketers?
You're lucky if you find them because there are very few of them out there. You know, full stack marketers are people that have built this capability or that broad capability over time. And the best bet though is to actually breed them. If that's the right word to use, train them rather, give them the time to become this person, and very specifically invest in creating this person and giving them visibility that extends beyond an 8-year period, because it takes about 8 years to get someone primed to even start to see results from that space. Now we're doing something about this. So one of the best places to find a full stack marketer is going to become Lazaro's new platform. So we're announcing a new platform and we're calling it the Golden Apprentice. It's actually something that's need-based, because whenever we go in and interact with any of the clients that we've worked with, we tend to see that once we've handed off what we're doing for them, or even if we're there with them consistently doing this on a retainer basis, every time we move away for about 10 or 15 days and we come back, we see that things have fallen, things have slipped. It's because the decision takers that were left in charge of what we put in place for them or put in play for them didn't have this broad spectrum insight and were therefore falling apart. Right? So one thing you should know about Lazaro as a company is 11 years ago when we formed Lazaro, we decided to do away almost completely with what we thought was a very troublesome department in most creative companies, and we did away with client servicing altogether. What we did was put creative people directly in touch with the problem at the other end, and they were able to solve it with much deeper insight and with much better results. We have not had a client servicing department in 11 years, and we've never wanted one.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never necessarily hit that point where we needed one. Now, building on that, here's what we've seen though. Over the years, we've worked with a broad spectrum of companies in terms of scale, right? We've worked massive multi-city national organizations. We've worked all the way down to startups. But what we noticed across all of these companies was one standard fact. As marketing started to go well, as the engine started to chug, as the strategy started to work, as we put in place breakthrough tactics and implemented them for these companies, they decided, hey, everything's working well. here's what we're going to do. We're going to go off and start some new businesses, or we're going to go off and look at new business opportunities. In the meanwhile, we think that we don't need to arrive at marketing meetings anymore and meet you guys. So what they do is they bring in some low-level enforcer and put him in place and create what I call a pseudo client servicing team. Not on our end, but on their end.
Correct.
And that person now started to become the weakest link in this entire chain. So we sat down one day and spoke about this, and I remember over a brainstorm someone said, hang on, what if we planted a marketing leader in that company? And we said, hang on a second, we can do that. So that's where this entire platform kind of, kickstarted. And let me describe what the Golden Apprentice is. The Golden Apprentice is us opening up our doors for 8 years to a candidate that we choose together with you as a company. And we literally sign like kind of joint contracts to say he's going to be exclusive to you and to us. He's going to train and learn components of this full stack capability in our camp as well as in your camp. So he gets exposure to all of the subjects that he needs to get exposure to in your camp and in our camp. And the reason that I've put 8 years there as a time frame is because in 8 years you'll start to see this person bearing fruit.
Yeah.
He'll start to take good decisions. He'll start to make the difference that you want him to make. And if most of these people who we give this 8-year opportunity to start or enter into the 8-year life cycle at about say 25 years of age, then they're going to be at that perfect age at 33 to either move on having delivered value to the company, or they would be at that perfect place to be put in a commanding position.
Right.
Which is exactly where you want them.
And they're really primed for you.
They're primed. So this partnership is what we're announcing on this podcast.
And that's the Golden Apprentice.
Yeah, and we're calling these people the Golden Apprentice. So the best place to find full stack marketers is going to be, come talk to us, and we can figure out how we build a relationship and train a Golden Apprentice together. And in 8 years, boom, we'll have a full stack marketer.
So on that note, if you are somebody in your 20s, 24, 25, and you have an interest in this industry and you like the creative industry, contact us, because there are a lot of brands that we know who are looking for people who are ripe to grow into full stack marketers. And just imagine one thing, how valuable you will be to the economy at large in 8 years. Just keep that in mind.
So don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We podcast every week, and if you subscribe, well, then you'll do us a favor, but you'll also do yourself a favor because you'll get a little email that says, hey, these guys put out a new episode. Now we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and so get on those channels, follow us, share this episode, actually share this pair of episodes with anyone that you think needs this sort of thinking within their company, and of course definitely share it with people that you believe are going to benefit in between the ages of say 23 and 26, these ripe candidates for the Golden Apprentice platform, because we're working with quite a few companies to grow full stack marketers using this platform, and the commitment is a dual commitment, so it's a really strong place to plant interesting people.
That's about it. See you next week.
That's about it. That's it. That's the show.
That's it. On this week's episode, we continue with the topic of why is my marketing strategy tragedy?
There's an out.
Marketing tragedy.
Marketing tragedy.
Okay, let's do it again.
That's your outro.